For all those questioning what has happened to the India-USA trade deal and who did not get a clear answer for a very long time, tremendous clarity has now come out on where it stands. And this clarity is accompanied with clear description of what has happened behind the scenes. You want to know what's happened behind the scenes. We in the media want to know what's happening behind the scenes. The government isn't really giving us the full story. But now this story comes out because the US Commerce Secretary is a man called Howard Lutnick. He gives an interview to a Canadian-American venture capitalist, some kind of podcast. And in that, he reveals quite a few things. He says that America gave a deadline to our Prime Minister Narendra Modi. Can you believe it? They gave a deadline. And he says the whole thing was set up. But let's be clear, it's his deal. They said it's Trump's deal. Trump is the closer. He is one who has to close the deal. You had to have Modi call the president. And they gave a time and they gave a Friday deadline for our Prime Minister to call Trump and agree to a deal. That is as arrogant as you can possibly get. That is as unacceptable as you can get. You're dealing with the world's most populous country. You're dealing with a country which is the fourth largest economy in the world, soon to be third. You're dealing with a country that is the world's largest democracy, and you are giving a deadline, and you are going on air on a podcast and saying, we give a Friday deadline to have the Indian Prime Minister call the US President, and he says they were uncomfortable doing it. In other words, the Indian side was uncomfortable with it, and he says Modi did not call. I'm so proud of Prime Minister Narendra Modi for not succumbing to this level of American pressure. I'm so proud that we have a Prime Minister who says, I will not capitulate. The US Commerce Secretary is surprised that India did not capitulate. He goes on and says, we did trade deals with Indonesia, with Philippines, with Vietnam. We had assumed we'd do a trade deal with India before that. This is something he goes on record, Howard Lutnick. However, what Howard Lutnick and Donald Trump did not factor is that India is India. India is not the UK, not the Indonesia, not the Philippines, not Vietnam, and not even Japan. Not even Japan or Korea. Especially not Japan, which signed the deal and is clearly uncomfortable with what it has done in retrospect. When the Prime Minister of India decides something, he is going to decide everything based on national interest. At least we can say this about our present Prime Minister, Narendra Modi, that he is not going to do anything which he believes is inimical to national interest. And now, therefore, ladies and gentlemen, we need to understand, because we have a backroom story. The Prime Minister put national interest first. Narendra Modi could have agreed. He could have said, okay, I'll build a long-term relationship with Donald Trump. But what the Prime Minister said at that point of time, the Prime Minister said, we build our energy needs. We have to get our affordable energy. We have to be independent. Remember, viewers, at that point of time, the Prime Minister repeatedly made calls for developing Swadeshi. And he said, build in India, make in India. Now you have the backstory to that. Why did Narendra Modi do that? Because Narendra Modi was put under pressure by the Americans, who are now saying that we want to do the deal with India, but we expected them to sign immediately after Keir Starmer signed the deal with us. Now imagine the strength of our present government, that we did not just not agree to sign the deal on their terms and on their date. We made it clear to the Americans, according to the statement of Howard Lutnick, that when we sign the deal, we've not said we won't sign the deal with the Americans, but when we sign the deal, we'll sign a deal on our terms, on our date, in our national interest. Now, what must have got Trump even more angry is the fact that not only did Modi not budge with him, but Modi went and signed a free deal with Keir Starmer, a UK-India free trade agreement, which means that India decided we are going to stare America back. So far, viewers, whenever I said it, many people said, Arnab, this is your speculation. How do you know? Okay, I was putting two and two together and going with what information I had from my sources. But today, I'm not even quoting a source. I'm saying that this is what the US Commerce Secretary has ended up revealing. Trump's right-hand man has revealed. And now he's saying, Lutnick further says that now we are making it more difficult for the Indians, because obviously, ladies and gentlemen, the Americans are so angry with India because we are one of those countries which are just refusing to give in. He says in that interview, everybody asked the president, who do you think is next in terms of who's going to sign the trade deal next? And if you look back at the time, he says he talks about a variety of countries, but he names India a couple of times publicly. It's not like a big secret. We had 3 Fridays to get it done. So the Americans are saying that they gave 3 Friday deadlines to India to sign the deal they wanted. 3 times they extended their deadline, but we did not agree. And once again, I'm saying tonight, feel proud that we did not agree. This is a superpower talking. And that superpower is India. We're sure of our direction, our growth, our market, and our potential. The Prime Minister is betting on the people of India and their energy and their faith and their nationalism. We must not let that faith down. Modi did not budge. We must not budge either. When we sign a deal, which I'm sure we will sometimes, we must celebrate because that deal will have to be on our terms. We are not going to even talk to a country that gives us Friday deadlines and then goes public with it and wants to try to do things to humiliate us. Ladies and gentlemen, Lutnick says in that quote that the president said, I won the deal in between the UK and Vietnam, which means Donald Trump was sitting in Washington and telling his Commerce Secretary, between signing the deal with Keir Starmer and with Vietnam, get India in between. And Trump is angry today because India is the only country which has said, not that we will not sign the deal or we won't talk to you, but we don't agree with your timing, your deadline, and your style, trying to get a deal done. You're using pressure to get us to sign on the dotted line on something and with something which may not be in the interests of the people of India. Viewers, that's a very major point that needs to be understood. You need to share this. If you're watching this video, share it with people, so that people get to know that all the lies that were spoken when the Congress party used a hashtag at that point of time, Narendra surrender, trying to insinuate that our Prime Minister was giving in to American pressure. Today we have heard it from everyone tonight. We did not give in to anyone's pressure, not during Operation Sindoor, not on our military interests, not when they did not expect us to hit Kirana Hills, which I believe housed certain nuclear strategic assets of the Pakistanis, which were being protected by the Americans. We still hit them. And when the Americans thought that they could put pressure strategically to extract something economically, we put the pressure back today. So of course there is tension. Of course there will be challenges. Of course there will be a privileged set. Some people who say this is bad, let's just give in to the Americans. But I would say no. We must think long term. We must look at the long-term opportunity, not short-term expediency. To the people of India, I would say, we should be proud that Modi did not budge. Our country did not budge. Bharat did not budge. And we should say tonight, once again, that the only ism in this country, therefore, is nationalism. Let Trump realize that he's dealing with a very proud, very strong, very confident, very assertive, and very nationalist people. And now you understand why Prime Minister Modi said this when he said, I know I will have to personally pay a heavy price, but I am ready for it. Now this, ask yourself, ladies and gentlemen, when Prime Minister said for farmers, fishermen and livestock rearers, Modi will stand as a wall of protection, please understand these are exactly the areas where America and Trump wants us to compromise. We will not be a superpower if we compromise. I am absolutely sure the trade deal will not allow that. Let there be no trade deal. We should be prepared to build over the long term, sacrifice in the immediate term, but promise ourselves that the day will not be far when the Americans will come begging to do business with us. Trump or no Trump, we will set the terms then. Ladies and gentlemen, believe me, the day is not far when roles will be reversed.